10 votes. 10 votes, that's what it has taken so far. For the first time since since the Civil War, for the first time we've had 10 votes for House Speaker. And he's going to fail again. But we'll talk about that and what this means. And I'm sorry, but after 10 votes, I would start to say, hey, maybe it's just me. No. It's way more sane to just keep holding vote after vote after vote until you win, right? I mean, that's the definition of sanity, continuing to try the same experiment over and over again, expecting different results. But we'll talk about the latest, and this including Matt Gaetz nominating Donald Trump, and how much fun that's going to be. So we'll talk about that, and where we go from there, and what happens next. In other news, surprising absolutely zero people. Adam Kinzinger joined CNN as a senior political analyst. So we'll go over that and what that means and where we go from there. Joe Biden announces a new crackdown on immigration. Too little too late after midterm time, and actually plans on visiting the southern border in just a couple days, so we'll go over some of that. And Damar Hamlin is awake and communicating by pen and paper. Still not speaking, and his first question is, did we win? It is going to be all this and more. I have more votes than Kevin McCarthy. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar. I have more votes than Kevin McCarthy. We've got a bunch of stuff to go over today. A lot of tabs. I actually have to delete one out of here because I can see the original tab and then the archive that I put up there, and we don't want to have that here. But yeah, there's a ton of stuff to go over here today. The Kinzinger story, that's just a shock to nobody at this point. Everybody knew that's what was going to happen, and yet people are acting like he's like it's some big surprise right now. So we'll be talking about that. Honestly, we're going to be talking mostly about McCarthy and Cori Bush and McCarthy and Matt Gaetz and Donald Trump and McCarthy and Dan Crenshaw and McCarthy and if you don't vote for McCarthy, we might get Hakeem Jeffries. No. I'm going to tell you right now, there are not enough Republicans in the House who don't want to have jobs at the end of this term, at the end of it, whether it's the first term or their 50th term, for you to have Hakeem Jeffries be the House Speaker. There are just not enough people who hate themselves in their own districts that much to do that. But, it's going to be the fear porn that they're going to come out here and try to hand to you. But, we've got video of Matt Gaetz nominating Trump. It's wild. And I'm here for it. I'm here for all the popcorn. We deserve to have representation in this country, and representation that isn't just going to roll over and just basically be Nancy Pelosi, except in a suit instead of a pantsuit. And that's really all Kevin McCarthy is at this point. I know a lot of people tried to come back out and say that he was going to be the savior, he's going to be this, he's going to be that, he's going to investigate everything. Dude, he is just, they say we could get Hakeem Jeffries. Well, put Kevin McCarthy and Hakeem Jeffries next to each other and let them both talk and close your eyes and you won't know which one is which. But it's kind of like Barack Obama and Mitt Romney in that way, too. So we'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about Damar Hamlin, who is awake right now. It's going to be all this more. Plus, we're going to finish out the show with a couple things I like and a couple things that I hate over here on Contemporary. Before we get started, make sure you guys go all check out great programming such as The Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, The R-Rated Conservative, The Porch Boys. Go check out Tweets by Brit, Mr. Behavior, and the No Gimmicks podcast as we all come together to try to bring you a news and culture experience from the common man for the common man. That is right. There is way too much of us getting our news and our culture from people who wear suits that cost more than our house, except for Quest Fanning. Although I'm sure that some of those anchors have suits that cost more than their houses too, or his house too, rather. But it's time for a better news experience. A news experience from people who have to make some of the same decisions you do, or have had to in the past. People who didn't get born with a silver spoon in their mouth. Tucker Carlson. So go check out all that great programming as we bring you news from the common man for the common man. And let's get started into our finance for the day here. Which, I mean, that in and of itself is wild, because we look into some of this here, and it's crazy what the Wall Street people think of, and what the Fed is doing as well. The Fed really wants to wipe a lot of these new jobs out of here, as people are running out of their government money and having to go to work. But we'll talk about that here. The Dow ending the day at 32,930.08, having one of its first ends in a while below the 33,000 mark. So we are sitting down. It descended at some point all the way down to 32,855.47 before striking itself back out. It ended down 339.69 points, or 1.02%, as the jobless reports come out and the investors realize that, well, the Fed is just going to have to hike more and more rates, which means that it's going to be harder and harder for people. The goal of the Fed is to keep people from going back to work, so that we get into a recession and people stop buying things, because, hey, by this Fed, only the government's allowed to spend money. But we'll talk about that a little bit more in the IBD article that comes with this, looking in at your Bitcoin, which stayed pretty well steady throughout the day, ending down $19.30 US cents to 16,825.10. So just a little bit of a roller coaster going off of that, and we'll see what happens with that. Looking in at the gas prices around here, the gas jumped again today where I live, but does look like there's actually evidence of a fall coming here. The Quick Trip out on the far west side of Madison that was at $3.20 yesterday is down to $2.98. For everybody else not catching up, the Amoco did drop to $3 even. The Quick Trip entering the Isthmus is down to $3.16, which is not that big of a drop. However, we see $3.20, $3.16, $3.16, $3.20. So we'll continue to watch and see where the gas goes, but you might see a small amount of reprieve coming on your gas bill. And hey, maybe some of you who held out and didn't go fill up just yet when you started to see the spike might get a little bit of a reward off this. Not a big one, but a little bit of a reward coming off of this. Let's see what IBD has to say for the day. Dow Futures jobs report on tap after stocks fall from key levels, and an advertisement interrupts our article reading. WWE jumps late, which, again, we talked about this before, and it does turn out that the WWE is still going. I don't know anybody who still watches it, but it's still going. Apparently there are enough that it's still publicly traded, too. Dow Futures rose slightly after hours, along with the S&P and the NASDAQ Futures. All eyes are on the December jobs report, due Friday morning. WWE and Air Test Systems jumped in extended trade Thursday, while Bed Bath & Beyond kept tumbling on fresh lows. The markets suffered solid losses Thursday on hotter-than-expected labor data, including jobless claims, ahead of big employment report. The major indices fell back from key levels. Microsoft extended Wednesday's big sell-off, while Tesla gave up much of the prior day's bounce. Meanwhile, United Health, Cigna, and other health insurers continued a terrible start to the new year. A large number of stocks are setting up, with many flashing buy signals in recent days, but usually not for long. Investors should wait until there are clear signs of market strength before adding exposure. Friday's jobs report could provide a catalyst, but which way? On the jobs report, the Labor Department will release the December jobs report at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Economists expect to see non-farm payrolls rise by 200,000, cooling from November's 263,000. That would be the weakest since December 2020, but still solid. The unemployment rate should hold steady at 3.7%. Average hourly earnings are expected to rise a strong 5% versus a year earlier, not keeping up with inflation, of course, which is still at 7.2%, though slightly down from November's 5.1%, which also did not keep up with inflation. Friday's job report will follow several hot labor readings this week, from Wednesday's still high job openings to Thursday's stronger than forecast ADP employment data and falling jobless claims. The Federal Reserve wants to see slower hiring and wage growth to ease inflation pressures because, God forbid, people go back to work after getting all that free government money, and some of them are going to have to. Like, there's still jobs out there that people need to take and nobody took because they were getting free money from the government. And now that they're not, now they need to go back to work. That's a lot of what's driving the Fed rate hike right now, because the Fed thinks that people are actually going to get more disposable income, whereas in reality, it's going to be a stop in the government spending. But they would rather ruin us than tell the government to, hey, maybe you shouldn't print that $1.7 trillion right now. The Federal Reserve, let's see. Fed policymakers have signaled repeatedly, including in Wednesday's Fed minutes from December meeting, worry that a stock and bond market rally could undermine their inflation fight. Markets are still expecting the Fed to slow rate hikes again to just a quarter point move at the Fed February 1st policy meeting, but odds slipped to 61% from 69% on Wednesday. So that's what we see coming off of that. Oh, we've got some interesting stuff on the corporate side. Former WWE CEO Vince McMahon, who retired last year following a sexual harassment scandal, which is like the most obvious thing that could be in the WWE. Like, I would be more surprised to find out there wasn't a sexual harassment scandal. Plans to return and sell the entertainment company. The Wall Street Journal reported late Thursday McMahon will name himself and two others to the WWE board, sources told the Wall Street Journal. WWE stock jumped 11% in late trade, rebounding above the 50-day line and not far from the November 28th peak of $81.63. Shares rose 2.3% to $72.04 on Thursday, up 5.1% for the week, as far as WWE stock bounces off its 50-day line. Air earnings shot up 220% versus a year earlier. Fiscal quarter 2 revenue rose 54% to $14.8 million for the chip testing firm, with exposure to the EV market. Air stock surged 18% on overnight action. Shares fell 3.5% to $17.27 on Thursday. Round tripping. Even in early entry, Air stock is down 14% to start 2023 after falling in the last 5 weeks of 2022. Bed Bath & Beyond plans to file bankruptcy in the coming weeks. That actually surprises me. The Wall Street Journal reported late Thursday that after a struggling housewares retailer issued a going concern warning early Thursday, Bed Bath & Beyond stock tumbled 6% in overnight action after diving 30% in the regular session. So I guess you need to go out and get your towels and sheets and crap. On the futures, Dow futures rose 0.1 versus fair value, the S&P climbed 0.15, and the Nasdaq advanced 0.2. The jobs report will surely swing the Dow futures, Treasury yields, and more before the open, setting the tone for Friday's trading. And remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate to actual trading in the next regular stock market session. So, there's your finance for the day. I've got a little bit from Market Watch, but we are not going to go too deep into this one here. Dow ends down nearly 350 points after jobs data. Hawkish Fed comments hammer stocks. From Isabel Wang and Joseph Adinolfi. Most of this is going to be a review from the IBD article, but I do want to touch on just a touch more. Labor market data published Thursday suggested employment is still healthy despite the Fed's most aggressive interest rate hike in about 4 decades and despite news of mass layoffs at Amazon, Incorporated, Salesforce, Genesis Global Trading, and other technology companies. ADP private payroll showed 235,000 jobs were created in December, beating expectations for 153,000 new jobs according to economists polled by Wall Street Journal. The data also showed large increases in worker pay. Initial jobless benefits claims also declined last week to 204,000, the lowest level since September. Data on job openings released Wednesday showed more than 10 million job openings in the U.S., another sign the labor market remains unperturbed despite the Fed's rate hikes and layoffs by financial and technology firms. Well, there's still McDonald's, and even though some of them are automating, there's still a bunch of stuff out here. And a lot of these people they either made too much money to be on unemployment, or they are not going to make it on unemployment because they made so much money while they were there. So a lot of them are picking up whatever job they can come back and pick up to try to make ends meet. And some of this is second jobs as well. There's a lot of that going on here. But again, a reminder, the Fed wants everyone to be unemployed and miserable in order to make sure that inflation is down. All right, we have done the finance. We are through that. Let's talk about what we're going to talk about for pretty much the rest of the day. Let's talk about Kevin McCarthy. We are going to start today with the Daily Wire. House Speaker race reaches 10th ballot. 10th ballot for the first time since before the Civil War. From Daniel Chayton. For the first time since before the Civil War, the House held the 10th vote for Speaker of the House, after House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy failed to clinch the gavel across 9 ballots. McCarthy suffered the same disappointment in the 10th round, but there were signs of a deal in the works as the sun set in Washington, D.C. on Thursday. Not since the 36th Congress, which stretched from 1859 to 1861, had there been a number of votes in the double digits during that drawn-out process. William Pennington of New Jersey emerged victorious after 44 votes. The most votes ever taken was 133 back during the 34th Congress, so right before, actually. From 1855 to 1857, that process took nearly 2 months, according to the Washington Post. Little changed on the House floor on Thursday, which was the third day of voting by members-elect. As many as 20 Republicans have refused to budge in opposing McCarthy, a sufficient number to deny him the speakership. Good! The final tally for the fourth ballot Thursday was 212 votes for Hakeem Jeffries, 200 votes for McCarthy, 13 for Byron Donalds, 7 for Kevin Hern of Oklahoma. It was the 10th ballot total since voting began on Tuesday. Matt Gaetz voted for former President Trump, we'll be talking about that later, twice before joining 2 colleagues in supporting Hern. Hern, a businessman turned politician, voted for McCarthy. The situation is similar to when some holdouts voted for Jim Jordan on Tuesday, but Jordan kept voting for McCarthy and even nominated McCarthy for one of the ballots. Victoria Spartz of Indiana, who voted for McCarthy on Tuesday, stuck to her Wednesday trend of voting present for the first 2 ballots Thursday. Spartz indicated she plans to keep voting present until progress is made toward finding a candidate who can win a majority. McCarthy lost 1 vote starting in the 3rd round of voting on Thursday. That's because Ken Buck left for a medical appointment, according to Fox News' Chad Pergram. Buck may not return until late on Friday. Because of Buck's absence and Spartz voting present, Pergram noted the threshold for a nominee to win the Speaker's gavel drops to 217 votes. But that number decreases if members vote present, decline to vote, or are absent. The House will continue until someone reaches a majority to become Speaker. House members cannot be sworn in until a Speaker is chosen, holding up any legislative business and committee assignments in the 118th Congress. As the 4th vote on Thursday came to a close, reporters shared that talks behind the scenes may be finalizing a deal that could begin to break the deadlock. I doubt that. I mean, it's entirely possible. Graham Slattery of Reuters reported the sources who said the agreement might win over 10 to 12 holdouts, which would not be enough to carry McCarthy to a victory. He said the deal includes a 1-member motion to vacate proposal. Well, that would make things interesting. Good things are coming. Hold a little longer, tweeted Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia, who's been voting for McCarthy after the 3rd vote on Thursday. So, 10 votes. And I'm going to say right off the bat, even though he does have a plurality of the Republican Party, at some point I would start to sit back and wonder, maybe it's me. But no, we wouldn't do a thing like that. Let's grab one from Politico. McCarthy nears tentative deal with conservatives after days of stalemate. Talking a little bit about the deal here. Kevin McCarthy and his conservative opponents have reached a tentative breakthrough after a days-long standoff, giving their California Republican speaker bid a needed momentum boost. Conservatives say they still need to look over the details of the potential package of concessions, but it's a sign of life for McCarthy, who has struggled to show public strength after 3 days of 10 speaker ballots that have seen him fail to flip any of his opponents. Importantly, it's not yet clear if the agreement will be enough to get McCarthy the votes he needs to win the speakership. 20 Republicans have been routinely opposing McCarthy on the floor, leaving him more than a dozen votes short of where he needs to be to win the House's top gavel. McCarthy will need to flip most of those votes without alienating centrists and institutionalists who worry that he is giving away too much. The possible deal comes after several hours of negotiations with McCarthy's detractors and less than a day after the GOP leader made an offer that conceded to basically all of their demands, including making it easier to boot a speaker. Ralph Norman, one of McCarthy's opponents, said there was a deal on paper but cautioned that he still needs to see how it's written and see what it is. Other McCarthy opponents acknowledged significant progress but were cagey about whether they had reached a final proposal for both sides to sign off on. A lot of good work has been done today. There is a lot of work to be done, said Chip Roy of Texas, and we'll be listening to him talk to Ingram later. Mary Miller asked if there was a deal, replied very cryptically, "Very exciting." The sign of hope for McCarthy follows a third day of high-profile failed votes on the House floor, and a few visible shifts among his opponents broke against him, while most rallied behind Byron Donalds. Firebrand Matt Gaetz prompted groans when he nominated former President Trump on the 9th ballot. He joins Lauren Boebert and Josh Bersheen in backing Kevin Hearn, a name Politico previously reported as rippling among McCarthy's defectors. And by the way, that's going to be the new slur that's coming out here. They're not insurrectionists anymore. They're not detractors. They're defectors. Meanwhile, GOP whip Tom Emmer convened a meeting in his office during the votes, including with Dan Bishop, one of the no votes. "This is the most hopeful set of conversations we've had in weeks," McCarthy ally Rep. Patrick McHenry said, adding that the offer by leadership allies amounts to clarifying what their intent is and that enables trust, where some have had trust issues. So, some stuff moving here. I do think by the end of it, and I don't know how many votes this is going to take, but I do think by the end of this, unfortunately, this neocon, rhinocon bag of bullcrap is going to be the Speaker of the House. Let's grab one from our friends over at NPR. It's a live update. Kevin McCarthy fails on a 9th attempt to win enough votes for Speaker. The House's 9th round of voting for Speaker, Kevin McCarthy once again failed to get enough votes to win the position. The chamber has moved to the 10th round. We do have live coverage of this through day 3. But why did McCarthy lose a vote in rounds 9 and 10? Dustin Jones reports, and remember, make sure you donate to NPR because they cannot stay up and giving you quiet news unless you hit the donate button. So remember, it's not your money, comrade, it's our money. And let's see what Dustin Jones has to say. Those tuned into the House vote for a new speaker may have realized that Kevin McCarthy lost a vote in the 9th and 10th ballots. According to a spokesman for Ken Buck, the California Republican returned home for this afternoon for a planned non-emergency medical procedure. Buck hopes to return to D.C. as soon as possible and get back to work for the American people. The official count from ballot 10 is Hakeem Jeffries, 212, Kevin McCarthy, 200, Byron Donalds, 13, Kevin Hearn, 7, and 1 Republican member voted present. The only shift between rounds 9 and 10 are that 4 Republicans, Andy Biggs, Elijah Crane, Andy Harris, and Matthew Rosendale, changed their votes from Donalds to Hearn. So that's what we see coming off of that. Let's talk a little bit about a reason why. From the Hill, lawmakers say McCarthy's speaker fight portends debt ceiling crisis. We can listen to some of the concessions as well. A messy, drawn-out battle over electing the next speaker is raising the danger of a debt limit crisis later this year, lawmakers in both parties warn. Conservative rebels in the House are demanding that the next speaker, whether it's McCarthy or someone else, make a stand against passing a clean debt limit increase, which would set up a major fight with Senate Democrats and President Biden. Congress has successfully avoided a debt limit crisis since 2011, which was also the first year of the new House GOP majority. That year, the standoff between Republican-controlled House and the Democrat-controlled Senate, and the White House brought the federal government within days of defaulting on its debt obligations. Lawmakers say the nasty battle over electing a new speaker portends another potential crisis later this year. The Treasury Department won't say when exactly the debt limit will expire, but the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget estimates it will need to be raised sometime after July. Conservative rebels who blocked McCarthy's election as Speaker on 6 consecutive ballots say the Speaker must insist on using the debt limit as leverage to enact major spending reforms, something that Senate Democrats have dismissed as a non-starter over the past decade. And they're also going to do the same thing again, except they have the media to run cover for them. Us 20, which, by the way, that would be we 20, want changes, and we're going to stay here until we get it. Ralph Norman of South Carolina told reporters on Wednesday, could McCarthy all of a sudden morph into a fiscal conservative? No. We'll see. Is he willing to shut the government down rather than raise the debt ceiling? That's a non-negotiable item, he added. A group of 7 conservatives opposed to McCarthy's bid to become Speaker circulated a Dear Colleague letter last month demanding that the next Speaker commit to not raising the debt ceiling without a concrete plan to cap spending and operate under a budget that balances in 10 years. Good. I forget this is a family show sometimes. Good effing luck. Senate Republicans, however, warned that the debt ceiling legislation with spending caps isn't going to pass the Democrat-controlled Senate. Which, I mean, you're right, it's not. Setting up the 2 chambers for a stalemate that could put the nation's credit rating at risk or the federal government on the verge of default. Okay, let's do it. It's not going to get to 60 votes. That's Matt, the Senate GOP aide, who predicted that it's going to be a challenge to pass legislation to raise the debt limit later this year. McCarthy said, well, it'll pass in the Senate. They'll get the 60 votes. The Turtle Man will come out and say, oh, well, you Democrats, you just slow down a little bit here. We'll give you whatever you want, but you have to go just a little bit slower than you were going before. McCarthy said in October he would be willing to use the debt limit legislation as leverage to force the spending cuts, but conservatives have doubts about how hard he would push it when the stakes are high and default is a real possibility. And, by the way, while the news media is hammering him because he is the new punching bag if he gets in. But the bruising battle over electing a speaker, which has played out over 2 days, has lawmakers in both parties worried that whoever winds up leading the House will have a hard time passing debt limit legislation on regular spending bills, given the staunch opposition of a small group of conservatives and the party's slim 5-seat majority. So they're going to use the debt. They're going to use the possibility of a terrorist attack. They're going to use the debt. They're going to use all kinds of things to keep this going. Let's see what the Hill has to say about what could be in the deal. Let's listen. I'm sorry, I thought they were going to speak on this one. So anyway, that's what they have to say with that, and I don't know what it is that they're going to come up with for this. Let's listen to some of the members of Congress going right now. ALX says Hannity is insufferable. Lauren Boebert says I will not withdraw. Let's listen.
So you and others fought hard for a motion to vacate, with only 5 Republicans able to trigger that motion. Kevin McCarthy didn't want to give it to you, but he did give it to you in the end. To me, that's kind of an insurance policy. Can I finish?
But he didn't all the way. He did not.
Wait a minute.
Sure.
He gave you what you asked for. And one of the things that I've been asking people, I'm asking you tonight, who is your final choice for Speaker? And if you can't get more than, let's say, 30 votes, will you follow your own advice that you were asking Donald Trump and withdraw?
There are certainly names that are being floated around. And, hey, maybe I should nominate President Donald J. Trump tomorrow. But, Sean, I did watch your show last night.
And I want to set the record straight
on this motion.
We're going to pick Jim Jordan one day, Donald's the other day, Trump the next day?
This motion to vacate, because he did not give us this motion to vacate. I'm showing there's a whole consensus of other candidates
but
that could be nominated.
I'm trying to understand how you're thinking here.
This motion to vacate, Sean, you need to understand that Kevin McCarthy did not give us my hard red line.
He fought for it.
And this is a century-old, no, he did not.
No, I know that he made the promise.
That was written by Thomas Jefferson.
I know he made the promise
since
because
1837 with 5 members, Sean, with 5 members, not one member to offer the motion to vacate.
So my question is this:
Nancy Pelosi's
you haven't answered my question. So if you have.
You cannot demand more responsibility.
Yesterday you supported Jordan. Today you're supporting
Sean.
Donald.
That's not the way this works. We need a check and a balance on the third in line.
Who
to
is
the
your
presidency.
Let's have a final answer. Who do you want to be Speaker of the House?
Maybe that's for the conference to decide. We need to come together.
Who do you want? I'm asking who you want.
What does it look like, life after Kevin? We need to find somebody who can actually unify the Republican Party. I have offered plenty of names. Let some other folks start offering other alternatives.
There are 203 people. And you have 20. I respect the 20 of you. I respect all of you. But I'm asking you, based on your own words, who is your final? Let's have a final answer. Who do you want? Who will you only support to be Speaker? It's not that hard.
I am willing to have conversations with the Republican conference to come up with a consensus candidate. We are offering people right now. It doesn't have to be a member of the Freedom Caucus. It doesn't even have to be a solid conservative.
By the way,
but we have
more than
to have
half
those
the Freedom
tools
Caucus supports McCarthy. So you don't even have a name.
Because
and we're now going into day 3.
Are afraid when you are threatened by committee chairmen to not be.
Yeah, ALX is absolutely right. Sean Hannity is insufferable. He absolutely is. And, I mean, that's one of the big things that comes out of this is we'll be talking about this later in things that I hate, but it's the same thing with Shapiro. Benny Boy is coming out here and, okay, gang, well, nobody has any plan. Well, no, the plan is to stop the spending. And nobody's put forward a single name. Really? Because it sounds like Byron Donalds has been put forward. It sounds like Jim Jordan has been put forward. Kevin Hern has been put forward. And most of us standing by for the sidelines, and of course, nobody in the House is brave enough to put this name forward, but most of us standing on the sidelines at home are yelling at our TVs and our computers and our phones, just put effing Massey up, for God's sake. We have our list of people that we would rather be the Speaker of the House, other than Kevin McCarthy. It's just people like Sean and people like Benny Boy don't want to hear it. I think this is the same clip. But let's listen.
With reaction is Congresswoman Boebert.
Oh, yeah, now, this is earlier on.
Town Hall quoted you today saying the president, you said complimentary things about President Trump, needs to tell Kevin McCarthy that, sir, you do not have the votes. It's time to withdraw. Let me turn the tables, Congresswoman. Kevin McCarthy has 203 votes. Your side has 20. So if I'm going to use your words and your methodology and your math, isn't it time for you to pack it in and your side to pack it in, considering he has over 200 and you have 20?
Sean, I understand.
No, because those 20 have the leverage. Oh, he's got 203 votes. You have 20. Is it time to pack it in? No, after yourself, Hannity. That's what a representative government was supposed to be, and that's why we have a filibuster in the Senate, so that the rights of the minority don't get trampled down by the rights of the majority.
The frustration, I promise you, but
I'm not frustrated.
He does
you didn't
not
answer
have the
my
votes,
question.
and we are hearing. I'm
not
many
frustrated.
people who are still voting with Kevin McCarthy,
You're
who are
not
very
answering my question.
supportive of what we're doing, and they're cheering us on. So there are more for us than are against us, and they are waiting for Kevin to cave.
Okay.
The American people are
Congresswoman.
certainly frustrated by.
I'm frustrated by you not answering a direct question. You said to President Trump, you said earlier today that President Trump needs to tell
And Kevin
McCarthy
does not have
you don't
the
have the votes.
We need to come up
Hold
with a
on. Can I
consensus
finish?
candidate to elect a
Can I
Speaker
finish?
of the House.
You don't have the.
Yeah, and this comes back into what we were listening to earlier. Yeah, you have 203 votes. Your side is 20. Yeah, he needs 218. Lauren Boebert is absolutely right on this. Absolutely. I can't believe I just said those words, but that happens. Sometimes I surprise myself. Let's grab one from Politico. Trump's spell over the GOP breaks with McCarthy's meltdown. From Meredith McGraw and Nicholas Wu. It was the second day of chaos on the floor when Lauren Boebert took the previously unthinkable step of thumbing her nose at Trump, the ex-president she otherwise venerates. Let's stop with the campaign smears and tactics and get people to turn against us. Even having my favorite president call us and tell us to knock this off, I think actually needs to be reversed, and the former president needs to tell Kevin McCarthy, you don't have the votes and it's time to withdraw, Boebert said. Oohs from Democrats could be heard from the chamber. I don't know if this video is going to load or not, but I'm going to try. Again, I remind you, Politico videos don't like to play. But let's give that a shot.
Let's work together. Let's stop with the campaign smears and tactics to get people to turn against us. Even having my favorite president call us and tell us we need to knock this off. I think it actually needs to be reversed. The president needs to tell Kevin McCarthy that, sir, you do not have the votes and it's time to withdraw. And with that, I yield. Thank you.
The inability of McCarthy to secure the needed votes to be House Speaker. Don't autoplay.
Last summer, we began to...
You're going to autoplay. The inability of McCarthy to secure the needed votes to be House Speaker, despite 6 tries at doing so, now 10, represents a unique failure on his part. But it has also called into question the extent of Trump's own power to shape the party in his image. It's not about his image. As much as the Politicos and the CNNs and all the others want to say that anybody who doesn't toe the warmonger, tax and spend, Jesus, and will just kneel out as soon as you call us a racist line, as much as all these people want us to believe that this is just Trump and it's a Trump cult, it's not about Trump. It's about making sure the working man is represented in a way they have not been represented and had their back turned on them by both parties. And the sooner our betters in the media start to realize that and stop screaming Trump over everything that doesn't go their way, the better off they're going to be. Yeah, Grant's got it right too. McCarthy has less votes than the Democrat candidate. According to Hannity's logic, they should just pack it in and vote for the Democrat. Exactly. Coming at a time when some Republicans have openly soured on his current run for the presidency. If these 20 people were successful in exerting their will over the 200 more Republicans who want McCarthy and deny McCarthy the speakership, then it will be a huge hit against Trump. Because the people he's supposed to have the most influence with don't listen to him, said Rodney Davis, the outgoing Republican congressman from Illinois. The Trump-McCarthy relationship has taken several turns over the years, most often defined by loyalty from the latter towards the former. It was McCarthy who went down to Mar-a-Lago after January 6th to meet with the seemingly exiled Trump and implicitly keep him in the fold. Trump, in turn, had offered his support to McCarthy's speaker ambitions even as contemporaneous material surfaced, showing the congressman's frustration with his presidency. After Republicans took the House, Trump was in contact with members of the anti-McCarthy wing, publicly expressed his support for McCarthy, and even warned that those waging battles against McCarthy that they are setting up a doomsday scenario in the House. Alright, I want to talk about this for just a moment, because this is important. Again, pointing out the fact where our friends in Politico believe that it's unthinkable for the Trump cult to not go vote and do whatever Trump says. It's not the Trump cult. And in fact, even though we liked a lot of what Trump did, I wouldn't vote for Trump again. Even if his opponent is Biden and Biden looks like he's winning, I would not vote for Trump a third time. I did it once excitedly because I thought that, okay, this is going to be somebody who's never been in public life. I want to see how somebody from the outside does. And I did the second time reluctantly because in spite of the blowout spending spree that he couldn't stop and the stupid people like McCarthy that he kept on his side, like Bolton, like McCarthy, like Barr, like people like that, I thought to myself, well, he has a vague sense of federalism that Joe Biden doesn't have. I'll give him another try. But at this point, no, I wouldn't vote for him again. I wouldn't do it a third time. It's not going to happen. Plain and simple. I'll write myself in before I vote for him. End of story. So what he has to say about the Speaker of the House, I give less than an F about. But what I do like about the fact was, number one, the tax cuts, and number two, the fact that he gave people like Boebert and Gates the balls to stand up and say no to Kevin McCarthy, in spite of the fact that the entire Republican Party is standing against them right now. And they may be exiled from having any sort of anything in the House. These people, like Grant said, probably won't have committee assignments by the end of this, because I do think, statistically, I do think McCarthy is going to get over the hump and get it. But these people aren't going to have committee assignments when he does. And they sure aren't going to have committee assignments if Hakeem Jeffries takes it back over. So, that's what we have going with that. Switch these around, because I want to do this one first. From The Blaze, sad. Gates says backing McCarthy is Trump's worst human resources decision. From Alex Nitzberg. More than a dozen Republicans have been steadfastly blocking Representative McCarthy of California from securing enough votes to become Speaker of the House. But former President Trump has called upon GOP lawmakers to back McCarthy's bid. Some really good conversations took place last night, and I mean, we went over some of this yesterday. Let's just do this for review, though. Now it's time for our great Republican House members to vote for Kevin. Close the deal, take the victory. Republicans, do not turn a great triumph into a giant, embarrassing defeat. It's time to celebrate. You deserve it. Kevin McCarthy will do a good job, and even a great job. Just the greatest. Just you watch. Trump declared in a Truth Social post. Matt Gaetz of Florida, one of the Republicans who has been opposing McCarthy's bid for Speaker, described Trump's support for McCarthy as a bad decision, which it is. Supporting McCarthy is the worst human resources decision President Trump has ever made. Sad, Gaetz tweeted, and by the way, I will say that Gaetz is right. Can't believe I just said those words, but Gaetz is right. This is a worse decision than when he nominated Barr to be AG. So far, in 6 separate votes, including 3 on Tuesday and 3 more on Wednesday, McCarthy has failed to secure enough support to clinch the speakership. During the first 2 votes on Tuesday, 19 Republicans did not support McCarthy. Then, from the third vote on, Byron Donalds of Florida, who'd voted for McCarthy for the first 2 times, started voting against McCarthy, bringing the total to 20 against McCarthy. During the 3 on Wednesday, 20 voted for Donalds. Democrats have been backing Hakeem Jeffries of New York. But He did it. In spite of the fact it was a bad decision, Gaetz did it. From the BBC, Republican Matt Gaetz nominates Trump for Speaker. Oh, this is a video. There's no article here. Okay, well, then we can just watch the video from C-SPAN. 11 seconds. That'll be enough to get the point.
Gaetz. Trump. Gaetz. Trump.
Now, will Trump get it? No, probably not. That's most likely not. That's most likely going to be the case of no. He's not going to be the speaker. Donald Trump is not going to be the speaker. But what I will give to Gaetz is the fact that he is bringing out the desires that he has, what he expects to see out of the government and the government officials. Somebody who's not been in Congress and been in every single wing and faction of the Republican Party, depending on what's in power. Let's talk about Chip Roy, which, what was it, Luke Wee had talked about earlier? No, major victory. Chip Roy nominated someone for speaker. Forgot his name. Well, we can listen because Ingram pushed Chip Roy. Let's throw some music up. Well, at least we read what's going on here. Laura Ingraham pressed Chip Roy during an interview Tuesday over the apparent lack of plans from a group of Republicans who are opposing Kevin McCarthy's bid to be the House Speaker. I don't get where they're saying. They keep saying lack of plans. They know what they're doing and they know what they want out of this. Now, some are saying, I think Kevin McCarthy's folks are saying that they already gave you guys a number of key concessions, Ingram said. Frankly, if I were he, I might not have given them if I were, trying to become speaker. Right, and then you wouldn't become speaker. And this is, by the way, another Fox News controlled opposition shill anyway, so. So what's your end game at this point, given 3 votes, and yet you all don't have one candidate who can get to 218, she said. At least not yet. Roy responded by pointing out the issues with McCarthy and in part blaming McCarthy for the U.S.'s massive national debt. You still have to get to 218, so again, I'm going to ask you, what's your end game here, she asked, because it looks like we could be going to something, in my view, a lot worse than someone who passes an ideological purity test understanding all your points here. Roy responded by saying their opposition was not an ideological purity test and that concessions from McCarthy had not yet been sufficient. But my question to you again, you have to get from point A to point B. I understand frustration with the establishment. Long before you were on Capitol Hill, I've been fighting the establishment. Sorry, I couldn't say that with a straight face. So I get that Ingram lied on air. But you still have to be able to get from to point B. So my question is a very specific one. Would you rather have Hakeem Jeffries? All of this neocon bullshit. If you don't do what it is that I want, we might have a Democrat be the speaker. Hakeem Jeffries cannot get to 218. In a position of authority in the House, rather than have McCarthy as speaker with the concessions that you did get a number of concessions. Let's listen.
Joining us now is Texas Congressman Chip Roy, who voted against Kevin McCarthy all 3 times. I want to have both sides on this issue. Now, Congressman, it's great to see you. Now, some are saying, and I think Kevin McCarthy's folks are saying, that they already gave you guys a number of key concessions. Frankly, if I were he, I might not have given them if I were, trying to become speaker. So what is your end game at this point, given the 3 votes, and yet you all don't have one candidate who can get to 218, at least not yet?
Well, thanks for having me on, Laura. Look, this is all about making sure that we change this institution, okay? Laura, you know this. Every single night on your show, you talk about how broken this place is. Does anybody think that $1.7 trillion bill that just passed is a good thing? Does anybody think that this institution is working? With all due respect to Kevin, he's been in leadership since 2009. Let me be clear. The debt was $11 trillion then. It's $32 trillion now. I can go through vote after vote after vote over the last decade. He was in the minority of Republicans not standing with Ted Cruz on Obamacare in 2013. He was on Good Lat 2 in 2018 with respect to the Immigration and Border Security Bill, which messed up the entire effort for us to secure the border 4 years ago.
Right, we've documented, Congressman, we've documented that, and everybody knows, like, I'm probably to the right of a lot of you guys on a lot of these issues, so no one's going to be conservative enough for me. However, you still have to get to 218. So again, I'm going to ask you, what is your end game here? Because it looks like we could be going to something, in my view, a lot worse than someone who passes an ideological purity test. Understanding all your points here.
No, it's not an ideological purity test. This isn't about Kevin, right? This is about all of the assertions being made by Kevin's camp. When I hear assertions that says, oh, they gave you everything you wanted. Well, Laura, hold on a second. What, 72 hours to read a bill? That's already the rule, and it gets waived. You know how it gets waived? Because the Rules Committee is chock full of a bunch of establishment people who say, oh, whatever we need to do to jam through the big spending bill that Mitch McConnell just sent to us. Look, when the leadership actually votes with the minority, votes with the Democrats to steamroll Republicans, which is the past history of our Republican leadership, then maybe we should do something different.
Okay,
so when I say I want tools, I want tools to change that.
Okay, but my question to you again, you have to get from point A to point B. I understand frustration with the establishment. Long before you were on Capitol Hill, I've been fighting the establishment, so I get that. Right. But you still have to be able to get to point B. So my question is a very specific one. Would you rather have Hakeem Jeffries in a position of authority?
That's not a real choice.
You are absolutely right, Chip Roy. That is not a real choice. I am agreeing with so many people that I have not agreed with historically, Chip Roy being one of them. I can't stand Chip Roy, but he's right on the money here. Dead on the money. That's not a real choice. Hakeem Jeffries can't get to 218. That's not going to happen. Let's grab one from the Hill. Democratic leaders urging rank and file to remain in Washington to vote against McCarthy, from Mike Lillis. Oh yes, because anybody who leaves lowers the threshold. As Republicans scramble to seat a speaker, Democrat leaders are urging their rank and file members to remain in Washington for the duration of the process, a strategy that will make it tougher for GOP leaders to resolve their historic dilemma and get the House up and running. Yeah, if a bunch of them take off, then that lowers the threshold and, well, McCarthy gets in. Catherine Clark of Massachusetts, the incoming Democratic whip, said Thursday morning she's calling on members of the caucus to forego any personal plans to ensure that all 212 Democrats are in their seats and voting on the chamber floor for as long as the process goes on. And this is not a hard sell because you understand what's at stake, Clark told reporters in the Capitol. Which I don't necessarily understand because you're not going to get Hakeem Jeffries over the finish line. This isn't about events and celebrations that they have planned, which is, of course, you know, we would love to be able to do, she continued, but this is about the dangerous moment we're in and about the chaos that Republicans are creating. So we have to be here to make sure that we're doing everything possible to end this crisis and get a functioning House of Representatives and to get to work for the American people. The comments arrive on the third day of the new Republican majority, which has been mired in the GOP's unsuccessful efforts to fill the Speaker's seat, vacated by Nancy Pelosi. Kevin McCarthy is seeking the spot and has the overwhelming support of his conference, but a small group of roughly 20 conservatives has blocked his path over the course of 6 separate votes conducted over the last 48 hours. I guess they think that if they stay in their seats, then they will get they'll get Hakeem Jeffries over 218 somehow. It's not going to happen, but they think that. All right, Dan Crenshaw. One-Eyed John McCain. Texas Rep. Dan Crenshaw blasts anti-McCarthy Republicans. Tired of your stupid platitudes. Yeah, that's how you get people on your side. I do have a video of Dan Crenshaw too, but let's read here first. From Bradford Betts. Dan Crenshaw on Wednesday blasted his Republican colleagues who are refusing to support Kevin McCarthy for House Speaker. I'm tired of your stupid platitudes, as some consultant told you to say on the campaign trail, all right, Crenshaw said of the 20 Republican defectors, according to the Washington Post's Dylan Wells. Behind closed doors, tell us what you actually want or shut the F up. Crenshaw's fiery comments came as House Republicans flailed through the second day of fruitless balloting, unable to elect McCarthy as Speaker or come up with a new strategy. The ballots were producing almost the same outcome, 20 conservative holdouts still refusing to support him, leaving him far short of the 218 typically needed to win the gavel. Crenshaw said the holdouts need to be men and adults and say what they want instead of playing these little games, and that's what we're asking. Okay. They've said what they want. They want a debt. They have a debt. They want a budget. They want the ability to use the debt ceiling as leverage, and they want 72 hours to read a bill and single issue bills. They've said what they want, and they don't want Kevin McCarthy, so cover your eyes, pretend that the establishment isn't. Family show, can't say that. Pretend that the upper 1% isn't screwing the rest of us with the help of people like you, Dan Crenshaw, and shut your damned mouth. That's what I've asked them. Some of them are my friends. Stop saying platitudes like Washington is broken. We can't do the status quo, he said. They want to pull the pins on grenades and lock the doors. McCarthy, the California Republican, vowed to fight to finish the Speaker's job, despite the grueling spectacle. Unlike any in modern times that threw the new majority into tumult for the first days of the new Congress. Crenshaw accused the holdouts of showing themselves to be unbelievably serious and not having a plan. It's almost like they want to make the point that they don't have a plan, he said. They have zero ability to articulate what they want that would cause them to vote yes. It's utterly confusing, and they get mad at us for criticizing. It's actually quite hilarious, the self-victimization that occurs. Crenshaw said he's willing to hold out forever, noting McCarthy would have to resign from Congress for him to consider an alternative. That's actually a good idea. Hey, McCarthy, Crenshaw gave you a really good idea. Maybe you should take him up on that. But I'll tell you what, whoever the 20 wants, I'll never vote for that person. He said, I don't care who it is. They want to play this game, we'll play this game. Mike Davis, again, with the false dichotomy of this. Kevin McCarthy's House supporters would rather give Jeffries and House Democrats more power, rather than have the GOP leader bow out. They're showing their true colors. They want to preserve the DC uniparty control of the House, so they can take care of their lobbyist buddies. He's quote tweeting Aaron Ruppauer, who says Don Bacon, who got into it a little bit off of this, and we've got a tweet from him. Let me actually skip this one for right now. We'll put this along with everything else, because we've got tweets from Don Bacon as well. Kevin, let's grab this one from the Daily Wire first. Far-right kooks, lunatics, terrorists, anarchists, all the names the GOP establishment has called the House Freedom Caucus over the years. Tucker on Dan Crenshaw's terrorist comments. Over the past few years, pretty much every part of the war on terror has been turned against the domestic political enemies of the neocons. What you saw is just the snarling face of the donor class. Let's listen.
Yet today, Congressman Dan Crenshaw of Texas, a surrogate for Kevin McCarthy, did. In fact, he did what neocons always do. He labeled anyone he doesn't like a terrorist. Watch.
those of us are saying, like, look, you pushed us into this corner, so now we're saying we won't vote for anyone but McCarthy. That's why we're saying it, because we cannot let the terrorists win.
Oh, they're terrorists now. It's hard not to see the connection, because over the past few years, pretty much every part of the war on terror has been turned against the domestic political enemies of the neocons. So now they're just coming out and telling you what they told you about Iraq. Either you're with us or you're against us. You're on the side of light or darkness. You're good or evil. Dan Crenshaw went all the way, as neocons always do. He proceeded to go to CNN to call his political opponents enemies of the state. Looking for a little Soviet-style politics? Watch this.
This handful of members is very clearly looking for notoriety over principle. That's what it is. And anyone who suggests differently is in some kind of make-believe fantasy reality. But if you're a narcissist and you believe that your opinion is so much more important than everyone else's, then you'll keep going. And you'll threaten to tear down the team for the benefit of the Democrats just because of your own sense of self-importance. That's exactly what's happening here. We will not vote for anyone else but McCarthy. These people think they're stubborn, we're more stubborn. They think they're not going to get the committees they want. Well, obviously they won't, but it's going to be so much worse than that. You know, they are enemies now.
So you may like Kevin McCarthy or not. Both are allowed. But no matter how you feel, you have to acknowledge, if you're being honest, that people who don't like Kevin McCarthy have a reason for that. They have real concerns, real issues. But you'll notice that Dan Crenshaw didn't address any of those, none of them. Instead, he impugned their motives, their character, their intelligence, their moral standing. They're narcissists. In fact, and we're quoting, they are enemies now. Now, what you just saw, as Dan Crenshaw spoke, what you just saw is the snarling face of the donor class.
Why am I agreeing with all these people I can't stand? Chip Roy, Lauren Boebert, Tucker Carlson. I legitimately loathe Tucker Carlson, but he hit every point right on the money right there. But yes, that's absolutely right. Far-right kooks, lunatics, terrorists, anarchists, all the names. And yet here I am saying we should put Massey into this. I'm going to skip this op-ed. I'm going to keep this op-ed in limbo for right now, but we're going to skip that for right now. Another one here, what Mike Davis said. I do want to see what Don Bacon had to say about this, so let's see what Aaron Rupar put out for video.
A lot of news with this idea of potential support from Democrats and what that would look like. You're talking about sharing committees here? I mean, lay this out for us.
You can adjust ratios. This will be part of the discussions. This is what I am advocating, and others are as well, not just me. If these 20 refuse to be part of the team and don't come on board, we have no other choice but to go across the aisle and start negotiating. And there's a lot of things you can negotiate. Committee ratios is a big one, because ordinarily you get a 4-seat majority in a tight house like this. Maybe we get it to a 2-seat majority instead of 4 in all these committees. There may be things we can negotiate on subpoenas. There's also on rules, like how to do motions to recommit. There's a lot of things that we could look at to see if we can come up with a more bipartisan House. And by the way, we need to do that. If you think we can get past totally partisan bills out of the U.S. House, and that a Democrat Senate is going to pass them with a filibuster and get it to the president and get his signature, it's not going to work. In the end, to get things done, you're going to have Democrats on board anyway, and maybe we could build a structure that reflects that from the beginning.
Because he wants the Democrats and the Republicans to work together to screw the American people. Just like always. Don Bacon. My office was informed by an agency today that they cannot communicate with my staff regarding active casework because they're not yet sworn in. Oh no, the government has to grind to a halt. Oh no. The handful holding the speaker election is not helping Americans but directly hurting them. Jesse Kelly pointing out as well, and more video of Don Bacon here, so we'll listen to that in a moment. But Jesse Kelly pointing out, Don Bacon has voted for trillion-dollar bill after trillion-dollar bill, but he wants to get the House back in session so Republicans can work on inflation. And that is a fair point. This is why I don't care. I hope this fight goes on for 2 years. Screw every one of these liars.
But people have got to tell their congressman, if they're one of those 20, that the House is shut down. We're not working on the issues that we campaigned on, like lowering inflation, securing the border, supporting our law enforcement, standing up to China. None of this is happening. All our committees are now shut down, and it's on these 20 people. They're embarrassing the House. They're embarrassing the Republicans. They're embarrassing our country. So I think over time, with focus, we'll get some of these over. But we also have to be willing to consider working with the Democrats at some point to get some work on some concessions to get some support there if these 20 refuse to budge. But people got.
Yeah, trillion-dollar bill after trillion-dollar bill. Yeah, I really have a lot to say. I want to hear a lot of what you have to say there, Don Bacon. One of the more interesting sides of this, and we're actually drawing this to a close right now, which is good because we're up on the clock and we still got a ton of stuff to go over here today. This is me quote tweeting Cori Bush, which I found this morning. Cori Bush, for what it's worth, Byron Donalds is not a historic candidate for Speaker. He is a prop. Despite being black, he supports policy agenda intent on upholding and perpetuating white supremacy. His name being in the mix is not progress, it's pathetic. And that is Cori Bush just wishing and hoping and squeezing and wanting to call him a House N-word that I am not going to say on YouTube. And I quote tweeted that too. Just say the N-word, Cori Bush. Everyone knows you're dying to hard R him. That's right. Call him the House N-word. Everybody knows that's what you mean. Everybody knows that's what you want. Nobody liked that either. That's lame. I got a bunch of views, but nobody liked that one. Come on, Cori. Just say it. Just say it. You know you want to. From the Blaze, Cori Bush lashes out at black Republican nominated for Speaker, calling him a prop who perpetuates white supremacy. From Carlos Garcia, far-left Democrat Cori Bush, Missouri, angrily lashed out at a black Republican nominated in the election for House Speaker and accused him of perpetuating white supremacy. Bush, a member of the squad in Congress, insulted Byron Donalds of Florida and called him a prop for the Republican Party, which we read the tweet already. Donald's name has been tossed in the ring as a possible challenger for the House speakership after Kevin McCarthy failed to garner enough votes from Republicans to secure the position. Chip Roy noted the historic nature of Donalds and Hakeem Jeffries, both black men, being nominated for House Speaker. His observation garnered a bipartisan standing ovation from members of the House. Critics of Bush accused her of being a racist against Donalds purely based on her opposition to his political belief. Wait, so if a black person has a different point of view than you, they're a prop. So you're saying they don't have a mind of their own? Amazing how racist you are, read one response. Why is it that you're allowed to be so openly racist and you sycophants even praise you for it? Another popular response, which I believe is somebody that I know. No, it's Eddie Scary. I thought that was Freckled Liberty that did that. Cori Bush found a black life that doesn't matter. She is just dying to say the N-word. And Byron Donalds responded, and I think we're going to leave it at this one. And then we're going to go talk about other stuff, because believe it or not, with everything going on with the House Speaker race, there's other stuff going on in the country. I know what we spend just 55 minutes, because I know we took finance along a little ways. House Speaker race, Byron Donalds responds after Cori Bush says his being black makes him a prop. From Lawrence Richards. Byron Donalds has responded to criticism from Cori Bush who said his being black makes him a prop in the House Speaker race. Taking to Twitter, Donalds responded to Bush by simply saying nobody asked. He also encouraged her to challenge his policies and the outcomes rather than the color of his skin. "Don't be a crab in the barrel," he said. So this has just brought out the absolute best in everybody, hasn't it? And by the way, we're probably going to be doing a lot of this tomorrow too, so strap yourselves in. I hope this goes on for months. I really do. But we have got to talk about other stuff. Not as much other stuff as I thought, but we've still got a slate of stuff to go over here, plus things that I like and things that I hate. And there are a few of them. So let's read this one here that absolutely surprises 0 people in the world. CNN's press room on CNN blog. Former Rep. Adam Kinzinger joins CNN as senior political commentator. No author given. Former Rep. Adam Kinzinger is joining CNN as a senior political commentator. The network announced today Kinzinger joins CNN with his extensive experience in uniparty politics, having recently retired from the U.S. House of Representatives. Is that what you're calling it? Recently retired, you mean getting his ass kicked out and thrown out from the people in Chicago who control the people in Springfield. There was no retirement about that. He wanted to run, he wanted to be the next neocon Republican uniparty shill. And Springfield, and again I say that is by Chicago, told him, no, pack your crap and get out of here. Kinzinger most recently served on the high-profile House Select Committee to investigate the January 6th Selfie Fest, as well as the House Committee on Energy and Commerce and the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Who's shocked? I'm shocked. I'm not shocked at all. He put his nose up enough Democrat asses, and now he's going to be on CNN. Joe Biden got in the news from CNN again. Biden announces new migration programs as he prepares to visit the border on Sunday. I do want to check into this Fox News article, and I want to see if they have video from Kevin Liptak and Priscilla Alvarez. President Biden on Thursday announced he's expanding a program to accept up to 30,000 migrants per month from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela, along with a plan to expel as many migrants from those countries who circumvent U.S. law as his admin confronts a surge of migrants at the southern border. In a speech from the White House, Biden also unveiled plans to visit the U.S. border on Sunday, stopping in El Paso. Yeah, he's not going to Donna, he's going to El Paso. To meet local officials and address border security issues, it will be his first stop at the border as president. And if he does what Kamala did, then he's going to go to a relatively safe sector of El Paso, make a couple speeches where he can see the border with binoculars, and then get his butt back on a plane and get the hell out of there. Biden renewed calls on Congress to pass new immigration laws, arguing his powers to address a growing crisis are limited. That's not what he said for the last 2 years. He said the politics around the border policy and migration often cloud discussions about how to handle migration and crossings at the border. So where was this when you had control of both branches of Congress, by the way? It's important to step back and see the bigger picture, Biden said, citing the migrants' desire to seek their own version of the American dream. The announcement and border visit amount to a surge in presidential attention on an issue that's increasingly become a political liability for Biden. He has been relentlessly criticized by Republicans and even some border district Democrats for failing to address record levels of border crossings. If the most extreme Republicans could continue to demagogue on the issue and reject solutions, I'm left with only one choice, man. Do as much as I can on my own to try to change the atmosphere. Come on, man. He said the process he unveiled is orderly, safe, and humane, and it works, Biden said. Immigration advocates, though, immediately denounced the plans, arguing that it risks leaving more migrants in harm's way in Mexico and is likely to exclude people with no connections to the U.S. So he's going to go back down, and he's actually going to do something about that. From the Associated Press, Biden toughens border, offers legal path for $30,000 a month. From Colleen Zong, Zeke Miller, and Elliot Spagat. President Biden said Thursday U.S. would immediately begin turning away Cubans, Haitians, and Nicaraguans who cross the border from Mexico illegally, his boldest move yet to confront the arrivals of migrants that have spiraled since he took office 2 years ago. The new rules expand on an existing effort to stop Venezuelans from attempting to enter the U.S., which began in October and led to a dramatic drop in Venezuelans coming to the southern border. Together, they represent a major change to immigration rules that will stand even if the Supreme Court ends a Trump-era public health law that allows U.S. authorities to turn away asylum seekers. Do not just show up at the border, Biden said as he announced the changes, even as he acknowledged the hardships that led many families to make the dangerous journey north. So basically, he's going to go the Kamala Harris route. Do not come! Do not come! Stay where you are, man, and apply legally from there, he advised, making a sharp turn from his campaign promise. Biden made the announcement just days before a planned visit to El Paso on Sunday for his first trip to the southern border as president, 2 years later. From there, he'll travel on to Mexico City to meet with North American leaders on Monday and Tuesday. Homeland Security officials said they would begin denying asylum to those who circumvent legal pathways and do not first ask for asylum in the country they travel through en route to the U.S. Which is, by the way, what's been being asked for the last 2 effing years. Instead, the U.S. will accept 30,000 people per month from the 4 nations for 2 years and offer the ability to work legally as long as they come legally, have eligible sponsors, and pass vetting and background checks. Border crossings by migrants from those 4 nations have risen sharply, with no easy way to quickly return them to their home countries. Do we not have planes? This new process is orderly, man. It's safe and humane, and it works. Let's listen. Actually, I want to look at this one because they say he fumbles during the speech, but I want to see if they have video of it. They do not. So let's grab one from the Associated Press instead.
Everybody, sorry to keep you waiting. There's a lot going on. Over the past several years, thousands of people have been fleeing from Central and South America and the Caribbean countries ruled by oppressive dictators, including Cuba.
By the way, before we get too far into this, I do want to point out this is from the Associated Press, so this is going to be heavily edited.
Nicaragua, Venezuela, and escaping gang violence, which has the same impact, in Haiti. Currently, these 4 countries account for most of the people traveling into Mexico to start a new life by getting to the American border and trying to cross. But instead of safe and orderly process at the border, we have a patchwork system that simply doesn't work as it should. Today, my administration is taking several steps to stiffen enforcement for those who try to come without a legal right to stay, and to put in place a faster process, I emphasize a faster process, to decide a claim of asylum. Someone says, I'm coming because I'm escaping oppression. Well, there's got to be a way to determine that much quicker. If you're trying to leave Cuba, Nicaragua, or Haiti, or have agreed to begin a journey to America, do not just show up at the border. Stay where you are and apply legally from there. Starting today, if you don't apply through the legal process, you will not be eligible for this new parole program. Let me reiterate. You need a lawful sponsor in the United States of America, number 1. And you need to undergo a rigorous background check, number 2. If your application is approved and you show up at a U.S. airport or when and where directed, you have access. But if your application is denied or you attempt to cross into the United States unlawfully, you will not be allowed to enter. This new process is orderly, it's safe, and it's humane.
Dude, look how uncomfortable Kamala Harris looks back there, because she's been in charge of this for 2 years, and now he's coming on. I'm telling you, man, you couldn't do it. I'm going to do it. Come on, man.
And it works. Since we created the new program, the number of Venezuelans trying to enter America without going through a legal process has dropped dramatically, from about 1,100 per day to less than 250 per day, on average.
And that's all they're going to show us. And then the Associated Press is going to autoplay. Just you wait. And I'm going to shut them up. Shut up, you. Let's talk about Dr. Peterson, which is mostly an excuse for me to use Dr. Peterson voice. Jordan Peterson ordered to enter re-education program in Canada over his comments. Speech that may cause harm. He is refusing to comply. Good. And I think that he's got sponsors here, so he's got asylum here. Unlike a lot of people from Venezuela and Nicaragua. From Dave Urbanski. Jordan Peterson has been ordered by a Canadian psychology governing body to enter what Peterson called a re-education program, reportedly over his past comments and speech that may cause harm. And it does appear that what they're dinging him for, I know I listened to Styx talk about this earlier, but Styx didn't know what podcast he was on. I listened to a little bit, I hate listening to Shapiro, by the way, which is going to be in Things I Like and Things I Hate. It does appear that he was on Rogan, so I'm actually going to be looking to see the Rogan interview that's probably either just dropping now or dropped in the last week. Not surprisingly, Peterson Wednesday, he formally indicated his refusal to comply with the demands of the College of Psychologists of Ontario. Peterson posted to Twitter parts of a document from the College of Psychologists on Ontario that outlined his concern over his public statements made on social media during January 25th, 2022 podcast. Oh, so this was last year. That may have lacked professionalism. So this is a year old and they're just hitting it now. The document indicates that Peterson is to work with another professional to review, reflect on, and ameliorate his professionalism in public statements and complete a coaching program. And he's got the documents here. Peterson tweets out, well, Bucko, I plan this ASAP to make all the allegations and my responses as public as possible while abiding by the ethical and legal restrictions on doing so. And at least insofar as those rules are clear and commensurate with the truth and a reasonable defense. Here are the demands made of me with regard to my re-education. I have formally indicated my refusal to comply. And that's what it is. I'm on my way down into the belly of the whale. My father is in danger down there, and I'm going to go back and survive and make him survive because the government of Canada is the belly of the whale. And before I do that, before I go down there, I'm going to clean my room. Peterson stated refusal to comply could result in discipline for professional misconduct, according to the document's language, and given the fact that he's got a $7.2 million contract from the Daily Wire, I don't think he cares. I'm going to come right out and say that. I don't think he cares. What did Peterson have to say? Who exactly was harmed? How? When? And to what degree? And how is that harm measured? Peterson asked, according to the Journal. Peterson also posted a Twitter thread calling the College of Psychologists of Ontario that he's making what's happening public. If the public believes I'm guilty, then I will take the required course of communication and then resign. He added to the college that if its allegations are revealed publicly to be both baseless and politically motivated, then a public apology and the resignation of everyone involved in the process on your side is appropriate. Let the games begin. Well, I mean, the Canadians have descended into Soviet bullcrap already. So what's to stop them from going that extra step? Let's talk Damar Hamlin. Because it does look like he is doing well. And he's doing well enough that the first thing he has to say is, well, let's read from Cincinnati.com. Damar Hamlin's first written note after awakening: did we win? From Victoria Morwood of the Cincinnati Enquirer. Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin has been communicating with hospital staff and his family by writing notes on paper, physicians said on Thursday, since his breathing tube prevents him from speaking. What was his first note? Written on a bedside nurse when he woke on Wednesday? Or written to a bedside nurse when he woke on Wednesday? Did we win? Physicians at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center gave updates on Thursday about Hamlin's medical condition and progress after he suffered a cardiac arrest while the Bills played through the Cincinnati Bengals on Monday. Dr. Tim Pritz, a UC Health physician, said Hamlin's question about the outcome of the Bills and Bengals game shows that not only are the lights on, but he's home. So, praise the Lord. Damar Hamlin is going to survive this. We can now dicker over what actually caused this, what we believe caused this, and what it is the mainstream media is trying to hide, but Damar Hamlin is going to survive. Great praise to the Lord. Got one from ESPN for you here. T. Higgins has a positive communication with Damar Hamlin's mom, which is good again, from Ben Baby. The prayers between Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver T. Higgins and Damar Hamlin's family are going both ways. In his first comment since Hamlin went into cardiac arrest and collapsed, Higgins said Thursday that Hamlin's mother, Nina, has been in touch and offered prayers and support in the aftermath of his collision with Hamlin during Cincinnati's game against the Bills on Monday night. It was just telling me she's thinking of me, praying for me, and things like that, telling me he's okay, all the good positive stuff, said Higgins, who added that knowing Hamlin is improving is making him feel good inside. Which is good. Again, I don't think Higgins was responsible for any of this. I don't think he did anything wrong. I've seen the tackle from 4 different angles. He didn't put his head into Damar Hamlin's shoulder. I've seen harder hits go against Aaron Rodgers and have him walk up. I do think that there was something else going on here, but a lot of this we can't say on YouTube. And a lot of this is a lot of people fighting over stuff and whether or not we should even be saying any of it at all. But I don't think T. Higgins is to blame. And I think anybody who's blaming him is a moron. From the USA Today, New Hampshire Democrats plead with DNC, we can't change our state voting laws. From Francesca Chambers, New Hampshire lawmakers say they're unable to meet a key Democratic National Committee requirement to remain an early presidential nominating state, and they're pleading with the party not to respond with stiff penalties. Democrat leaders in the state had previously attempted to convince the National Party to rethink its 2024 presidential primary calendar and mandate that New Hampshire repeal a state law mandating it hold the first Democratic contest. Those efforts have been unsuccessful. Now, party leaders are telling the DNC's rulemaking committee that New Hampshire Democrats likely do not have the power to change our election laws with Republicans in control of the state legislature and governor's mansion. Punishing New Hampshire Democrats who have no ability to address voting laws in the face of a Republican trifecta in the state could have dire consequences for Democrats up and down the ticket in 2024, a letter led by New Hampshire Senate Democrat leader Donna Soucy says. The letter was obtained first by USA Today, specifically addresses a DNC mandate that New Hampshire expands absentee voting to maintain its position at the front of the calendar. It is one of 2 election laws that New Hampshire would need to change to keep the National Party from limiting its influence in the presidential nominating process. So, because the party actually decides the schedule in which the races go, not necessarily, and that's why some states, not very many, but some states actually have their Democrat and Republican primaries at different times. The reward for the states doing all the things that the Democrats want is they get to be earlier and have various different things. Like in Wisconsin, for example, I had the opportunity in 2016 to vote for a few people, but just even a month later in the primary process, everybody else had fallen out, and Donald Trump was the nominee. I believe I voted for Carson. I had initially backed Fiorina at the time, but I voted for Carson in the primary because he was one of the only ones left, and I was not... Like, I was thrilled to vote for Trump when he was the general nominee, but not in the primary. I didn't think that he had it in the primary. I didn't vote for him in the primary. In 16. But I live in Wisconsin. I live in a later state. Democrats passed a bill that expands access in New Hampshire several years ago when they were in the majority. But the state's sitting Republican governor, Chris Sununu, rejected it. Given Governor Sununu's 2019 veto, it's highly unlikely that he and the Republicans will change course now because of demands from the DNC. Susie wrote, "We believe that a strong Democratic support for no-fault absentee voting shows New Hampshire Democrats' commitment to goals laid out by the DNC." Well, too bad. You didn't cheat to get your way, so the DNC is going to punish you. Sorry, it's all over. Alright. Let's do one more, and then we'll do a few things I like and a few things that I hate. I got 3 and 3 today. The last one on news comes to us from Reuters, and it's a little bit more of a personal slice of life thing because an Iowa woman believed to be the longest living American dies at age 115. So congratulations on making it as long as you did. From Kanishka Singh. A woman in Iowa believed to be the oldest living person in the U.S., having lived through historic events ranging from 2 world wars and the Great Depression to the Spanish flu and the pinko pox pandemic, has passed away at age 115. So, let's say, that would make her born in 1907. Wow, congratulations. Bessie Hendricks died on Tuesday at a senior living facility in Lake City, according to Lamp and Powers Funeral Home. Hendricks was born, November 7th, 1907, and has been listed by the LA-based Gerontology Research Group as the U.S.'s oldest living person. She taught at a one-room schoolhouse in her native Calhoun County, Iowa, and raised 5 children, 2 of whom she outlived, according to the USA Today. When she turned 112, Hendricks told local media that the secret of her long life was hard work. Her daughter said at the time that Hendricks hardly ever took medication and enjoyed sweets. On her 115th birthday, the Shady Oaks Care Center, where Hendricks lived, wrote, "We all wish Bessie H. a very happy birthday on her 115th. She's had an awesome day celebrating with her family and friends. The cake, the flowers, gifts, and cards made the day extra special." Well, congratulations on that. Hendricks' death has left Eddie Cesarelli of California as the oldest living American. The Gerontology Research Group data shows Cesarelli is set to turn 115 on February 5th. So, you made it. You won life. You got one of the longest ones out there, and I hope that you find as much peace in the next life as you did in this. I hope God had mercy on your soul, and Jesus is there to welcome you. Alright, let's do a few things I like and a few things that I hate, and then we'll head out of here for the night. Starting with The Blaze. The Blaze reports rapper Cardi B goes on an expletive-filled rant about inflation. What the F is going on? That's right, when you've lost rich people like Cardi B, that means you have done effed up. From Carlos Garcia. Cardi B is way more base than a lot of people give her credit for. I mean, she's still a moron, but she at least knows what's going on. Rap artist Cardi B posted an expletive-filled rant about high inflation that went viral and garnered millions of views. She posted her rant on her Twitter account, which has more than 27.5 million followers. I will admit I'm one of them. In response to critics who mocked her for tweeting about grocery prices increasing. Nah, grocery shopping prices are ridiculous right now, the rapper tweeted on Tuesday. We might as well eat outside. I think she's more black and less Hispanic, but I guess that's just the way that my impression of her goes. On Thursday, she posted a follow-up video. We can watch the video. We can watch the video. It's there.
Let me tell you something. When I be complaining about food prices, and y'all motherfuckers be like, ain't you rich? Why you complaining
Wow, I guess I was way more on the nose with that accent than I thought I was.
about lettuce? Why you complaining about this? That just goes to show me when you become successful, when you have money, you're gonna go broke soon because y'all not budgeting. I get a summary of the money that's being spent in my home every week. So when I'm starting to see that like groceries is like tripling up, it's like, hey, yo, what the fuck is going on? I want to see for myself what the fuck shit is being spent on. And like when I go to the fucking supermarket, like I went to the supermarket, I'm seeing that everything tripled up. That like lettuce was like $2 a couple of months ago, and now it's like fucking $7. Of course I'm gonna say something. The fuck? Because if I think that shit is crazy, I could only imagine what middle class people or people in the hood is motherfucking thinking. So yes, I'm going to say something. The fuck? And I have a big platform, so I do want anybody that's responsible of these fucking prices to put that shit the fuck down. They're gonna see my shit, they might put it down. So shut the fuck. Let me tell you something.
I can't stand her music, but she's on point. This goes back to what I was saying about Tucker Carlson. What is it with these people that I can't stand that I'm suddenly agreeing with? But, I mean, Cardi B has... as much terrible music as she has put out, gets it. Cardi B gets it. I can't believe I'm saying those words out loud, but Cardi B gets it. And she is thinking, even though she... I like the fact that she acknowledges that she herself is wealthy and well off and can still afford it even under the prices, but people who aren't like her, who have to go out, buy her downloads, her albums, etc., may be thinking something completely different. I like that. And again, this is coming from somebody who would never sit down and buy a Cardi B album because I can't stand rap. She gets it. And the other people like Jody Sweetin are just saying, oh, well, just suck it up because Democrats are doing you a favor by existing and going against evil Republicans, and Jersey, my wife's son, Reliant, telling you, I don't see any inflation. I don't see any inflation out there at all, so maybe you should just shut up and vote for Biden some more in inflation. I would gladly play more inflation for everything else if it means that I don't have to see a mean tweet or things like that. The Democrats are completely out of touch, and Cardi B, of all people, gets it. Hang on. We need to do some exterminating here. Or to you. It's the end of you. I can't believe I just said Cardi B gets it. But she does. Alright, thing that I like number 2 comes to us because I do like to share what it is that I'm enjoying on streaming services, what it is that I'm enjoying in music, what I'm enjoying in video games. And I haven't done that for a while. But I think it's time to do so. And because I've been sharing my experience because I've been watching Deep Space Nine, but I started back from the beginning on that because I'm sharing that with somebody now. We're watching together. Because of that, I went on and got back onto Netflix, which I've been paying for but not watching for like 4 months. And decided to go check out some of the things that I've missed, because I know that like Umbrella Academy, which we've talked about on this segment before, has a new season. Warrior Nun, which I've talked about on the segment before, has a new season. Cobra Kai has 2 new seasons that I haven't seen yet. So there's a lot of stuff that I can go back and catch up on as far as Netflix or other streaming services go. I know that there are a couple on Disney Plus that my sister pays for. Also that I want to go back and check out, including, yes, I want to see actually how bad the Book of Boba Fett is. I'm going to watch that one as much as most of you have told me how bad it is. But I took a chance because, well, I like this sort of thing. And I think I have 1.5 episodes left of the new Wednesday series, which I know a lot of people had a problem with based on some of the wokeness and things out of that. And I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I actually enjoyed it. I thought it was good. And this one even by the way, because the first couple episodes I said you should have left the Addams Family out of it instead of using Charles Addams' characters as a crutch for bad writing, and this could have possibly stood on its own. No, this even dashes that for me. I think that this, for one of the very few things, because my big thing is create something new, create new characters, I actually do think that this worked well as an Addams Family show. There are a lot of criticism out there, but I'm going to tell you right now, before we watch the trailer for Netflix's Wednesday, if you go into this with an open mind, this is actually really good. There's a murder up there. There's not as much woke as you would think, especially from current day Netflix. There's a little bit of it in there, but it's not the leading part. The leading part is a murder mystery with some occult elements. Now, with that, the only other thing that I could say is that the Addamses were known for never having magic or superpowers or anything. They were just a weird and ooky family who like to do weird and ooky things. And Wednesday has visions and more of an occult fashion, like a Wiccan fashion. And Uncle Fester, who made an appearance late in the show, does have the ability to manipulate lightning. I could have gone without those two aspects. I really could. And just let them be creepy, ooky, spooky people who like weird things. But in the context of the story, it actually worked a little bit. I don't think they could have told the same story if Wednesday wasn't having visions. But let's watch the trailer for Netflix's Wednesday. So that is Netflix's Wednesday. And again, a lot of the criticisms about that, I think when they first started filming this, I think Elaine and I were still working together, and we had pointed out the fact that it was weird to see Gomez Addams being played by Hispanic. Luis Guzman is, if you take the color of his skin out of it, Luis Guzman plays Gomez Addams perfectly. The passion, the lust for Morticia, he plays it perfectly. I was very impressed by his performance. We didn't really get to see a lot of the performance because they're not main characters. Morticia and Gomez, they don't show up until, again, later on in the series. But the episode where they did play a major part in the episode, on point. He's got it. He's got the passion. He's got everything else. So this was better done. I went into this fully expecting to cringe and hate it. It was very well done. For the source material, for everything else that they're trying to do, it was very well done. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the ending looks like, which I'll probably be seeing later on tonight. Because I kind of powered right through it. And one more thing that I like, a little bit of a statistic coming to us from San Francisco Gate. More U-Haul trucks left California than any other state in 2022. Gee, I wonder why. The California exodus continued in 2022, at least according to new data released from U-Haul. The moving truck rental company's annual growth index shows that more moving trucks departed from California than any other state for the third consecutive year. California had one of the greatest net losses of U-Haul trucks since 2016, always landing on one of the lowest growth spots. While the state had the largest net loss of U-Haul trucks overall, several cities in the state had a net gain, including LA, San Diego, Modesto, and Redding. Most cities in Northern California experienced a loss, but there was one big exception. There are more break-even and net loss markets in Northern California, with a notable exception of the Sacramento-Roseville area, which remains one of the nation's top growth markets, U-Haul spokesperson Jeff Lockbridge told San Francisco Gate in an email. According to our local reps, much of that in-migration to the Sacramento-Roseville area is a result of transplants from the Bay Area. So yeah, San Francisco is losing people, but they're going to Sacramento. But gee, I wonder why. I wonder why people outside of Los Angeles, Sacramento, Oakland, and San Francisco are leaving California in a government that's designed to only work for people in Los Angeles, Oakland, Sacramento, and San Francisco. Gee, I wonder why that might be. Meanwhile, the states, or the cities rather, that the government is designed to work for are seeing net gains somehow. Man, that's weird. I wonder why that would be. Alright, let's do a couple things that I hate. And when we start out with things that I hate, we start out, which it looks like I've actually got to refresh this here. We start out talking about Kevin McCarthy again. So I've got two sections of yesterday's Ben Shapiro show queued up, pointing out the fact that the Republicans like Ben Shapiro, who want you to support him, who want you to listen to his podcast and buy his merch and buy his Daily Wire subscriptions and pay for a subscription so you have exclusive access to Jordan Peterson you can't get anywhere else, and listen to Exodus, what they still think about you, because, by the way, people like Ben Shapiro still hate you. So I've got about a 2-minute clip from the 2-minute mark, and then I've got about a 2-minute clip from the 8.5-minute mark that we're going to listen to as Ben Shapiro tells you that, no, just suck it up and vote for Kevin McCarthy. And if you don't want to vote for Kevin McCarthy, you have no plan, and you don't know who you want, you don't know what you want, you just want to be an obstructionist. Let's listen.
The hours of footage that are being hidden. I would love to see all of the interview context. Like, sure, why not? Tucker suggested that, for example, Thomas Massey be given charge of some investigative powers. Okay, sure, why not? But that's not the actual demand. Here is the problem. No one knows what the demands are. I know this because I'm speaking to many Congress people, like pretty much every hour now. And what they are saying is that behind closed doors, the people who are making the demands of McCarthy aren't actually making any material demands. They don't even know what they want. What they are enjoying is the spectacle of being at the center of the political conversation, sort of in the same way that the squad on the left side of the aisle enjoys being the spectacle at the center of the political conversation on the left. Well, the problem right now is that all the incentive structures in the Republican Party cut against a cohesive Republican Party because the Republican Party effectively has no power anymore. In a time when political parties had a lot of power over their members, the power...
Yeah, Ben loves to come back and tell you that you have no plan if you don't come back and agree with him. You know why? Because he hates people like you. And it goes on because he does talk about, okay, well, give us a name. Okay, gang, just give us a name. Tell us who you want. Tell Massey, Scalise, God forbid I say this, Jordan, anybody but California Representative Kevin McCarthy. And yes, there is a plan. Let's have a balanced budget. Let's have 72 hours to read a bill. Let's use the debt ceiling as leverage instead of just coming down and kneeling down and giving in whenever the Democrats say effing jump. But I've got another section here queued up at the 8.5-minute mark that I also want to talk about. Or let's talk about this for a second.
I thought that half the purpose of the Republicans taking over the House of Representatives when they have a minority position in the government, meaning that they don't actually control the Senate or the presidency, I thought that half the purpose was how you staff the committees, the investigative committees, the Judiciary Committee, and all the like. So you're willing to surrender all that to Hakeem Jeffries because you're pissed at Kevin McCarthy? I don't actually see the strategy here. What?
Yeah, the other false dichotomy. Oh, no. If you don't vote for McCarthy, we're going to get Hakeem Jeffries. So just vote for McCarthy and forget everything that you want in the government, okay, folks?
Is your strategy? Again, you don't have to love Kevin McCarthy in order to ask a very simple question. What is it you are trying to achieve? What is your goal here? I don't feel like this is an irrelevant question. And I understand there are people online who are yelling and screaming, well, my goal is that I don't like Kevin McCarthy and we need more conservatism and we need better leadership. Okay, we do need more conservatism. We do need better leadership. Who is it? What's your strategy?
Massey. Scalise. Stefanik, God forbid. Literally anybody but Kevin McCarthy. There is a strategy. Just because you don't want to hear it, Ben, doesn't mean it's not there. Just because, and I've actually got to take my headphones off for this, just because when people tell you what it is that they want, you go back and stick your fingers in your ear and say, la 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 la. Okay, gang. Oh, no. There's no strategy here. No, I can't hear your strategy. Okay, it's not there. Okay, gang. Just because that's what you do does not mean there is no strategy. So there you go. There's Ben Shapiro telling you how much he hates the fact that you don't want to vote for the neocon who's just going to give him whatever he wants, and to hell with you. And I'm actually going to skip the last one because that's more of a local story. I'll put it in the Discord, but I'm going to skip over that one. But I do want to touch on this one here because this is changing America. The cashless future is here, and so is Big Brother. Is getting rid of the dollar bill a good idea? And I'm going to come back and tell you absolutely not. I'm going to tell you why, but I want to read from this one first. Story at a glance, 2/5 of America used no cash in 2022. 40%, by the way, you could have put out there. Paper currency and coins have downsides. They're unsanitary, inconvenient, costly to handle, and easy to steal. Credit cards and debit cards leave a valuable digital trace, but also that means they're easy to track. So this is the story. Americans may soon be poised to go cashless now. By the way, they're not going to go cashless. You're always going to have a way to go buy hookers and drugs. That's not going to go away. Now the nation must decide if ditching the dollar is a good idea. 2/5 of Americans used no cash in 2022. Back in 2015, by contrast, fewer than 1/4 of consumers went cashless, according to a Pew survey. In a separate poll, 3/5 of consumers told Gallup they used only only on occasion last year, twice the share of 5 years ago. Paper currency and coins are unsanitary, inconvenient, and costly to handle, and easy to steal. Criminal enterprises thrive on the portable anonymity of the $100 bill. Cashless transactions solve those problems. Advocates say they also allow Big Brother to track American consumers' every move. It's easy to see why this is coming from progressive Changing America. When you pay cash, I give you money. You give me a good, end of story, says Jay Stanley, a senior policy analyst at the ACLU. If you're using your credit card for all your transactions, then data is being collected about an enormous range of your activities, including medical conditions, political donations, sexual activities, how much liquor you buy, how many cigarettes you buy. In left-leaning New York, Philadelphia, and San Francisco, city leaders have enacted laws that require businesses to accept cash, ostensibly to protect the unbanked, a small but significant share of citizens who rely on currency. New York's cash mandate seems an epic battle between city regulators and Van Leeuwen, a chain of ice cream shops known for 650 scoops and a cashless operation. Company owners held out for nearly 2 years before changing the rules last fall. So this is, by the way, what the Uniparty wants, and the people like Kevin McCarthy want, and the people who are supporting Kevin McCarthy want. And it's not about, okay, well, if you have cash, then you might go buy a hooker, or you might go buy drugs or something else, which, I mean, that's always a possibility. You have the freedom to do so. But see, if we go to the cashless society, and you use your government-mandated cryptocurrency, and your debit card all the way, and just happen to come out and say, you go on Twitter and say, I can't believe how Joe Biden isn't responsible for all the inflation. What a joke this guy is. And then you decide, okay, well, my refrigerator's getting empty. I gotta go out and get, I gotta go get some bread. I gotta go get some eggs. I gotta go get some beef. Because I want to make a nice stir fry for dinner and then make it on a sandwich and eat it the next day. So you go out and you buy 2 pounds of beef and a dozen eggs. 2 pounds of beef at $71.29. And a dozen eggs at $34.22. And a loaf of bread that's $17.18. And you get up to the register and you take out your little bank card and you hit the machine with it because it's tap, and the machine says transaction declined due to political instability. Transaction declined. You said something bad about the government. And that is one of the things that all these people want. Now, I will admit, I use my debit card more than I probably should. A lot of this being the fact that for the last 3 years, working a mid-shift, doing contemporary, and then working until 7 o'clock at night, has made it next to impossible for me to go up to a bank and get cash in the middle of the week, or right after I got paid, and then work until noon on Saturday on top of that. But when I've needed cash or needed to go sell something or have cash in hand, I used it, and I prefer it. Hell, when I lived in Kenosha, and part of that was for being unbanked because I was so poor, I went to a check casher and just did everything in cash. It was easier to track, especially when you were that poor. It was much, much easier to track and know how much you had, and once your pocket was empty, you were out for the week, so you had to budget yourself a lot better, which is what they're talking about with the unbanked. Oh, you said something unsavory about our glorious and great religious leader, Nancy Pelosi? Oh, sorry, I guess that, I guess you won't be buying that food today. Oh, I hope you had a little bit of backup here to survive, because until you go back onto Twitter and apologize, we can't sell that to you. Sorry. And this is the future that they want, and this is the thing that we should be pushing back against. So, with that, we're going to head out of here for the day. A lot of stuff got accomplished. We actually finished, and I know I skipped over a couple because, well, they were basically reviews of articles earlier, but we actually, for such a big stack on a 2-hour stretch, we got finished. I was surprised. But we're done. We're going to head out of here for the day. Let's get the outro music changed up here and head out. Make like a baby and head out. Thanks everybody who came by and chatted in the live chat. Everybody who came and hung out with us, talked about the news, and really kept things going off of this. And I've been reading your chats on and off. That's how I knew to go get rid of the porn bots. But remember, tomorrow, everybody's name who chatted in the live chat is going to be written down in the handy dandy notebook here. And I'm going to give everybody a special thank you tomorrow as we go through the chat. And I will be going through some of your live chat again tomorrow as well. Grant, I'm going to have you whip up all the off hours people and see if we can't get 1,000 messages like you guys do in the middle of the day in the off hours server. But yeah, with that, we're going to be out of here. So we'll go over some of what you guys are saying here tomorrow as well. Definitely looking forward to that. I'm sure that we're going into another day tomorrow of no speaker. Another day tomorrow of no speaker. Another day of tomorrow of no speaker. Definitely looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing that. And we will see you here tomorrow for more news, more headlines, more announcements, and more contemporary. Definitely looking forward to that. If you're on the Twitch side, stick around. We're going to go raid somebody. Go find somebody who's playing video games or something to watch. And we will see you here tomorrow for your evening news. And until then, remember, I still have more votes than Kevin McCarthy. And we'll see you next time over here on Contemporary. And until then, I am Jay Edgar. And this is Contemporary. Take care.